What's up, my friend? Abby here, and welcome back to Ask Abby, where I answer your writing questions and help you make your story matter. Oh, it's been a while since I did one of these videos. I was going to do one last week, but then I decided to do a Write With Me live stream instead because I needed to get some writing done, and so did you. And it was a lot of fun to all get together and write together. I'm really liking these Write With Me live streams. I know you guys really like them as well. So I'm hoping to, going forward, I'm hoping to do more of them, like at least once a month, maybe more, depending on what's going on. But I want to do way more writing this year anyway, so it gives me a good excuse to sit down and commit myself to writing and to help you guys sit down and commit to your writing as well. So yeah, I got to work on a new project that I started a couple of weeks ago, and I'm very excited for this project. I can't share anything about it yet, but it's gonna be good. You're gonna love it. And I'm actually gonna share it with you guys later this year. So stay tuned for that, but I'm not gonna tell you anything about it yet. It's top secret. But it's really fun. Okay, that's enough about me. Comment below and tell me what you're working on, what you're writing at the moment, and let's get to today's questions.
Why does your story matter? Good question. What if I told you that there's a science behind every great story? I don't just teach you how to write. I teach you how to change the world with your story and make your author dreams come true.
In case you're new around here and don't know how this works, here's the deal. You ask me questions and I show up here on YouTube every other week pretty much to answer them. And there are two ways to submit questions to the show. The first way is to hit the join button below this video and post your questions in the community tab on my channel. The second way is to go to patreon.com/Abbie Emmons and get yourself in the Writer's Life Wednesday Inner Circle Facebook group. And there you can post a question for Ask Abby as well. Just make sure you hashtag it Ask Abby so that I see it. Okay, let's get to the questions. First question is from Dorothy. Hey Abby, my name is Dorothy. I'm 12 and lately I've been writing a 1930s book about 3 families with 9 kids who become friends. I have a character named Clara who is about 14 and I had some questions about how to make her be a good character. She is one of the oldest kids and she's very sassy and kind of selfish. I want to show the reader that she's kind of fierce and she has character improvement throughout the book about not being so selfish and rude with people. How can I write her as being rude and selfish without making her sound mean? I want people to like her character and relate to her, but also understand that she needs improvement. Thank you so much. Okay, so this is a great question. It's actually something that me and Kate touched on in our last podcast about writing myths, and one of the writing myths that we debunked was your characters have to be likable. This is a myth that goes around the writing world, and I think it does a lot of damage because it creates this pressure to make all of your characters like perfect and likable and sweet and kind and wonderful and what's not to like about them, but that takes you down the path of making your characters flawless, which is a big problem. You want your characters to have flaws. That's part of what makes them relatable. And that's gonna be my main point here, is that your characters don't have to be likable, they just have to be relatable. So with the case of your character, she just has to be relatable. So what makes a character relatable? Internal conflict. Another way to look at it is misbehavior and misbelief. So this is a new thing that I've started using for myself, and I might add it eventually to the character profile because I'm really enjoying using it. It's a real quick way to discern what is going on with your character and to show it to the reader without being too transparent. So the first thing you ask yourself is, what is their misbehavior? And what is their misbelief? And you can see how those two things are connected. So the misbelief or the misbehavior is what's happening on the surface. So their external actions, the way they speak, the way they present themselves, how they behave. That's their behavior, their misbehavior. And what is happening beneath the surface. So that's their misbelief. And you can see how those two things are connected once you start sketching this out. But if you can sketch out those two things and you have the misbehavior with the misbelief underneath it. Okay, what's beneath the surface, what's on the surface. Now you can start to trickle in details for the reader, showing us what's beneath the surface. Why do they behave this way? So your character can be rude and selfish and kind of mean to other people. But if you show us why, okay, what's happening beneath the surface, what is her misbelief, why does she really behave like this, then we can relate to her. Another thing to ask yourself is, what is she the victim of? So I don't necessarily mean that she has to be the victim of something big or catastrophic. It can be something kind of ordinary, but figuring out what she is dealing with specifically that gives us some sympathy for her, okay? We have to feel sympathy for characters. We have to relate to them. We have to feel some kind of sympathy for them. And knowing what they're the victim of, even in their own mind, even if it doesn't seem like they're the victim of anything to anybody else, knowing what they're the victim of helps us to feel that sympathy for them. So don't worry about making her likable, just worry about making her relatable. Okay, next question is from Amanda. So, sequels. My first book is finished and mostly edited. My second is not going as well. I definitely need a sequel because book 1 left off on a cliffhanger, but I'm having trouble plotting character arcs for book 2. There is a small shift in MCs because although the MC from book 1 is still there, book 2 focuses more on her friend Tex, who started his arc halfway through book 1, and his inciting incident was about 80% into the book. They have escaped a wasteland prison and are now back in the world of technology where Tex will get to show off his true abilities, but at the end he makes a bad decision that will haunt him throughout book 3. I just don't know how to figure out what happens in between. How do you plot a sequel? Sequels are a whole other video for another time. Most sequels fall flat because they weren't prepared to be a sequel. In other words, the first book didn't make the second book inevitable. There was no inciting incident for book 2 at the end of book 1. Where most writers go wrong is in thinking that the audience loves these characters so much, all you have to do is throw together a bunch of random stuff happening and you'll have a great sequel. But they forget to ask themselves one very important question. Why does it matter? Yes, your audience cares about these characters, but what do these characters care about? In other words, there must be character arcs. Even if your protagonist just had their aha moment in the end of book 1, they can still go on a journey in book 2. Just like I told Dorothy a minute ago, ask yourself, what is the misbehavior? What is the misbelief? What's happening on the surface and what's happening beneath the surface? And why does it matter? Next week, I'm going to be posting a video on how to use the 3-act story structure for a 3-book series. You guys have been asking me for that one forever, so it's coming next week. Stay tuned for that, and I think it will help you, Amanda, as well. Last question is from Chloe. Hello, I'd like to ask Abbie and other experienced writers in this lovely group about beta readers. Hopefully sometime in 2021, my fantasy novel will be ready for beta reading. What precautions should be taken when sending an unpublished and thus not yet copyrighted manuscript out to people who may be perfect strangers? I get that the whole piece is unlikely to be stolen, but how do you protect your intellectual property when the thing is neither finished, edit-wise, nor published? I promise I'm not always this mistrusting, haha. Okay, so it's totally normal to be mistrusting, especially with your writing. It's your baby. It's the thing that you've spent so much time and energy and love on. So it's totally fine to feel like this. I have definitely felt apprehensive about sending my book and my writing out into the world uncopyrighted. So first thing I would do is put a copyright notice at the beginning of the manuscript. So there's a generic piece of text that you'll see in the beginning of every book, and it goes something along the lines of this: text copyright, sign, date, name, all rights reserved. This book or parts thereof may not be reproduced in any form, stored in any retrieval system, or transmitted in any form by any means, electronic, mechanical, photocopy, recording, or otherwise without prior written permission of the publisher. If you put that at the beginning of your document, I doubt anyone will dare touch it. But if you're really concerned, you can file for a copyright before the book is even finished. It costs about 50 bucks in the US, I'm pretty sure, and to me, that's well worth it for the peace of mind. Technically, everything you make is copyrighted the moment you make it, but it never hurts to have that extra layer of protection. Okay guys, awesome questions as always. I hope you got something valuable out of my replies. If you would like your question answered here on YouTube, you know what to do. Hit the join button below this video or go to patreon.com/Abbie Emmons and get yourself inside the Facebook group, and there you can post a question. It's an awesome community full of writers just like you, and I think you will love it there. So check it out. Smash that like button if you liked this video, and be sure to subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, because I post writing videos and publishing videos every single Wednesday, and I would love to have you here in the community. Until next week, my friend, rock on. Okay, I'm rambling. Never hurts to have a copyright, especially if your beta readers are as dodgy as they sound. Okay.